water, but they're entertaining further charges. You get into the areas of Essex or Middlesex. I mean, both of them are in the probably 12 to 15,000 already. So I don't believe you're out of whack for servicing. So, and you know, when you pay $3,000 and you get beautiful facilities like this, is part of what they're getting as they'll market in the community for, you know, these type of things. I don't think anything you've done, in fact, if they're speaking positively about you, is probably because you have a lot of positive elements here that help the developers to sell houses. So I don't think it's hurting the market, and I don't think you've been unfair in the charges that you've.
Follow. Is that your question? Your turn then. Councilor Underwood.
Okay, back to the sewage treatment facility. I just want to sum up. So we've got best case scenario, worst case scenario, $23 to $150, which is a pretty wide, $250 per household per year, which is a pretty wide margin. If I'm going to vote on anything later on, I'm going to need a few more. I'm going to need a few more numbers there to bring us in between there. So ultimately, that's what I'm saying.
That's the question I was going to get us back to. Okay, we've got the 22, we've got the 250. What options are available to us to take that 250 back down to something that we can live with? Because I don't think we can live with 250.
Just to what you're saying, here's what I'd like to see here. There's a number of different scenarios here that I'm seeing. There's 3 full-time double train partners. There's 2 full-time double train partners, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. There's 2 single phased in. We're going to use the term phased in. Single, right? Single train. Yeah, we're going to say that phased in, right? So full built single train. So 2 single train partners, and then there's I guess that's it, because we're not going to do this on our own as a single partner. So have I missed out a scenario? And here's what I'd like to see. In that 2 single full build single train scenario, we would have a 70% share, correct, of the capacity cost, whatever. What I'd like to see broken out is separately, not just one number, is debt carrying based on the 2,700 current ratepayers plus projected development. I think we set up 600 outside of the traditional zones 3 and 4 new development. Is that right? 350. Well, I'm not talking about all 1,800. I don't care. We're not even going to 1,800. So I'm just asking. I'd like to see a breakout of debt carrying for the current rate users, the 350s that we're saying. Councilor McGuire, okay, plus the 350 on a 70% number for us. I'd like to see the life cycle broken out on carrying that, because I know it's almost $1 million a year, which our share would be around 700,000. And then the actual operating costs annually for each of those options. And I think we'll have numbers then that we can look at, because anything on top of developers, I guess where I get a problem with the free will offering is, you know, I can't think of a developer, if you said to them, would you build me a home and in 5 years I'll pay you for it? They'd say, sure, no problem. That's free will. I think, you know, I think we got to get real about this thing. And I think, you know, my concern is, and I spoke to a developer yesterday, and he wasn't twisting my arm. This is a good guy. He's an honorable guy. He's building up in Grand Bend now. And he said, look, I just need to know, because if you guys aren't going ahead with this, I'm not putting in a $500,000 road, and I'm not going to. If you are going to go ahead with it, I'm ready to put in another, you know, 250 homes. So I think for us right now, it's a need to know. I think the emotion of this thing, take it out of here. This is a board of directors of a corporation with 12,000 shareholders. And we have to make business decisions here that make sense, that move us ahead and keep us leading edge. And I won't mention any towns nearby, but we've had friends open up businesses in Bayfield thinking they would. Bayfield is not a growing town. It's not a thriving town. There's lots of people who go up there to look, but they're leaving empty-handed. Lambton Shores has to be cutting edge when it comes to that. We have to tell our businesses, we have your best interest in mind as we do the ratepayers. So I guess that's where I'm coming from, Gary. I need to see those numbers broken out for each of those scenarios so that we, in January, can go back to the table and talk some real turkey for you about getting this done.
Yes, and we're talking about the options, all right? We're talking about the options, the 1.4 million that we talked about in the operating costs. Almost $1 million of that is life cycle replacement. We have options with that. It's not mandatory that we include that when we're paying full debt.
If I,
While that's
Well, then how can we continually defend the fact that this municipality has led the province in terms of like cycle replacement and all our costs? We can't suck and blow, Mr. Mayor.
if I can offer, when we've done life cycle, we normally go, the rule of thumb is that the asset makes it into the analysis once. So that, with that, if you recall, we normally have demonstrated your 10-year capital budget. So we're building plants and stuff like that. We normally don't build the financing of that plant or that infrastructure, and then also recommend building the full life cycle cost at the same time, because you get a double hit. The reality is, if I've got, let's just say debt, and that's where this is what I was trying to clarify in life cycle, is that if I debenture $1 million a year, so I'm paying debt charges, let's say $1 million a year. At the end of 15 years, that drops, but that money is in your rates. We built that into your rates now, and all of a sudden it drops. You now have all of this room. So that's where, if you build it at the front end, and you're paying the debt charges, as soon as that drops, that's when you take that money and you start putting it into your life cycle reserves. So you're planning for the replacement, okay? Because ultimately you're going to have to do that. Now we would probably suggest having some contributions, and we've got some contributions in here, recognizing that you still have to pay for if stuff happens, right? But the reality is a treatment plant, 25% is for the superstructure, so that's the hard concrete and stuff. That lasts at least 60 years. You've got some of the different components. You've got pumps, which probably are 25 years. You've got the electrical system, which is probably 20, and you've got filters. So there's the different components. I could probably give you a breakdown because we work with that type of information quite a bit. But that's where I wouldn't necessarily build into the financial analysis the $1 million in the debt charges and the rates, and then also layer on top the full life cycle, because you can go like, holy smokes, you're killing me here. And I'm a financial guy, I'm an economist, and I'm just saying, I look at a longer period of time, and I would say, pay the debt, you've made the room, as soon as it drops, that's when you reroute that money into paying the long-term reserves, so you're building up the funds. Now you have to have a little bit of a hedge, you have to have some flexibility, but that's where I have looked at the agreement, and I understand it, and I applaud what they're trying to achieve. I would just wonder that if I had the opportunity to advise, I would have probably written in some different caveats into that, which may be a little, because if you're guaranteeing that you have to pay those charges and do the financing, it's a great breath. And I wonder whether it's the most effective use of all of that money. I understand risk, I deal with risk all the time, but I might make some refinements to it. And we have it in here, built in both the financing cost plus your portion of the full life cycle. I'll tell you later, I haven't built it in.
Yeah, through you to the tri-municipal board, but we have representatives and you can answer. So I just want to confirm, okay, if we went for a single train option and all that without partnership, does that mean these other partners, Blue Water, do they still have that 10-year option, or is this a whole brand new thing? They still have that 10-year option kicking in?
There's no agreement.
So the agreement's over?
The agreement is for 3 full-time partners.
Yes.
Till December the 31st. That is the agreement.
Yeah.
Single train is not in the agreement. That's part of, so that's why we're saying January 1st, it's a new ballgame. The concern on our end is a credibility concern. We've tied up $15 million through promise from 2 levels of government with an agreement that 3 partners said, we're going ahead to do this. And it's been on the table for 4 years. We are only dealing in the last month with 2 partners saying, you know, we didn't really want a water ski. We just needed to be